7-inning baseball games? I love it. And remembering my interview with John McNamara, all coming up on the latest edition of the Baseball Beat.
Welcome to the Baseball Beat with your host, Dan Lovallo.
In 1979, I interviewed the then manager of the Cincinnati Reds, John McNamara. McNamara passed away earlier this week at the age of 88. We are putting this podcast together, the Baseball Beat, on Thursday, July 30th, and we will get to John in just a bit. But let's talk about this conversation between the Major League Players Association and Major League Baseball about doubleheaders and perhaps playing 7-inning games when it's a doubleheader, or one game going 9 innings and the other game 7 innings. I'm all for it. I think it would bring back doubleheaders in baseball, perhaps in the future. The games, let's face it, are not what they were back in the 20th century, when you could knock off a doubleheader in under 6 hours. I used to go to doubleheaders on a Sunday afternoon at Yankee Stadium, and the first game would start at 1 o'clock, and you'd be out of the big ballpark in the Bronx by 7 o'clock, having watched two games in well under 3 hours. Baseball has got to pick up the pace, and if you can't do it with 9-inning games, then maybe at least when it comes to twin bills, shorten it to 7 innings. By the way, this would be part of my Dan plan anyway, and I'm going to release the Dan plan in the next month. I think Major League Baseball is on the verge of doing some big things. This sport can once again become the national pastime. There are so many areas into which baseball can delve to make the sport once again the most popular in the country. And it's all going to be part of my Dan plan, which I will release within the month. But part of that plan is doubleheaders, 7 innings. And I would say to the baseball ownership and to the Players Association, if you're going to do doubleheaders in 2020 because of COVID, and obviously this is an ongoing, very fluid situation because of what happened with the Miami Marlins, don't go with 9 innings in the first game and 7 innings in the second game. It's not going to work. Play 2 7-inning games for your doubleheaders. Now, baseball is in a bit of a bind because of what happened with the Marlins, and so now there's conversation that the rosters, which were supposed to be reduced from 30 players to 28 and then to 26, might stay at 30. That's fine. The two sides can work it out, as well as this talk about doubleheaders. I go with the plan of 7-inning games, both ends of a twin bill. Just like I'm a big fan of what they're doing in extra innings. You know, the notion that baseball is this traditional game that doesn't change is a lot of hooey. Baseball has always changed. Now, some might say they should change even more radically, and we can have that conversation on another day, and I intend to do it when I release my Dan plan, which will also be on my website, danlovallo.com or thebaseballbeat.com. That gets you to the same website. But baseball has changed in many ways. It's changing right now. And in order to appeal to the younger demo, I maintain that baseball should bring about the Dan plan. And part of the Dan plan is 7-inning doubleheaders. Now, I know the owners don't want to give up an extra date, which is what they would have to do with doubleheaders. But under my plan, believe me, the owners can have twin bills, and the owners can also make even more money. But we'll get to that within the month. I just wanted to bring this up because by the time you hear this podcast, Major League Baseball and the Players Association might have already announced that they're going to play 7-inning doubleheaders. By the way, you can see that the Players Association and the ownership is trying to make nice in several areas because of the acrimony that existed prior to the start of the season when they negotiated its resumption. It seems now as if, particularly on the ownership side, as well they should, they're bending over backwards to try and accommodate the players, and I hope they do. because the agreement between the Players Association and ownership expires after the 2021 season, and the acrimony that remains because of the negotiations leading to the start of 2020, that could be diminished if the owners continue to cooperate with the Players Association. A lot at stake here. If the players want 30-man rosters, go for it. If the players want 7-inning games, go for it. And I hope that that's what happens. John McNamara. Most baseball enthusiasts will always remember John McNamara as the manager of the 1986 pennant-winning Boston Red Sox, who blew it in the ninth inning of Game 6 of the World Series against the New York Mets. Blew a 3-run ninth-inning lead, lost Game 6, and then lost Game 7. The Red Sox were 3 outs away from winning their first World Series since 1918. This was in 1986. I remember watching Game 6 with a friend of mine who was a huge Red Sox fan. And I turned to him as we went to the bottom of the ninth inning in that game and said, do you realize you are about to watch what Red Sox fans have never seen? You are about to watch, in some cases, Red Sox fans who were born and died never witnessed your team winning a World Series. And then the collapse began. We all know about Bill Buckner, who shouldn't probably have been out there. Normally, McNamara would substitute Dave Stapleton, who was a better defensive first baseman. But the story was, because Buckner was such a main cog in that 86 Red Sox team, that McNamara wanted him on the field to celebrate winning the World Series. I mean, the odds of the Mets coming back in that ninth inning were astronomical. They came back, won the game, won Game 7, and the rest is history. But all that said and done, I liked John McNamara as a manager. I really did. He was soft-spoken, never played in the major leagues, got as high as AAA, but he began his managerial career at the age of 37 with the Oakland Athletics, managed Oakland, the San Diego Padres, the Cincinnati Reds, the California Angels, the Red Sox, then the Cleveland Indians for a couple of seasons, and finally, on an interim basis, managed the Angels in 1996 at the age of 64. That was his last managerial job. He ended with a career record as a manager of 1,160 victories, 1,233 losses. So he managed 19 years in the major leagues and had a .485 winning percentage. But he did win a pennant. And not many managers can say they won a pennant. And he had to go through the playoffs to do it. And that was a dramatic comeback by the Red Sox to beat the Angels in the playoffs that year. But let me take you back to 1979. This was when I interviewed John McNamara. 1979, McNamara had taken over that season as manager of the Cincinnati Reds. Prior to that, it was Sparky Anderson, the popular Sparky Anderson, manager of the Big Red Machine. He was the outspoken, popular, charismatic manager of the Reds. He gets the axe because Cincinnati was starting to go downhill. McNamara inherits that team. When I interviewed him, it was on August 25th, 1979. The Reds were in New York to play the Mets, and starting play that day, Cincinnati was in second place, a half game behind the first-place Houston Astros in the Western Division. And here is my interview, short interview, only about 2 minutes, my interview with John McNamara.
Talking with John McNamara, manager of the Cincinnati Reds. And John, as you look at this Cincinnati ball club down the stretch, the team seems to be playing even better baseball than earlier in the season.
Well, without question, we have people that are getting their health back, and talking about George Foster and Joe Morgan in particular, and our pitching is improved. It's been consistent all summer long, and it's definitely improved. And Tom Hume and Doug Beer are doing a fine job out of our bullpen, and we're just playing very steady, consistent ball.
When you took over the ball club in 1979, where did you feel the team had to strengthen itself in order to be a strong contender?
Well, I felt that I'm a pitcher's manager, and I feel that pitching is on any night is at least 85% of the game that goes up from there, depending on who we have pitching and who's pitching against us. And I felt if we could put some depth in our pitching behind Seaver and Bonham and Norman and Bear, that we would stand a very good chance. And we have done that. We have accomplished it. Mike Lacoste, Tommy Hume, Frank Pastore, Paul Moscow isn't with us any longer, but the whole pitching staff has done a very outstanding job.
How about at third base? Obviously, that was a big hole to fill when Pete Rose left, but Ray Knight seems to be doing the job.
Ray Knight has done an outstanding job. He can take the most descriptive adjectives you want, and he's done it. We knew he could handle it defensively. His hitting, we knew he wasn't an out man. We felt he hit somewhere between 260 and 290, but he's been over 300 all year long and done just a fantastic job in both at bat and in the field.
Right now, it's a two-team race in the West, the Astros and the Cincinnati Reds. What do you feel the Reds will have to do in order to overtake the Astros? Or will it be the Astros overtaking the Reds? How does it look?
Well, we still have to catch them. We're half a game behind going into today's ball game, and all we have to do is keep winning.
Thanks a lot, John.
Incidentally, the Reds did go on to win the Western Division, but they were swept 3 games by the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates, this was when it was still a best-of-5 series, the championship series. The Pirates sweeping the Reds in 3 games, and then they went on to beat the Baltimore Orioles in the 1979 World Series. Cincinnati that season ended up going 90-71, and no, they did not have Pete Rose on that team, as you heard me talk about with McNamara. Rose had left Cincinnati, but they had Tom Seaver. He was among the members of the pitching staff. Mario Soto, Pedro Borbon, Doug Bear, Charlie Leibrandt. Johnny Bench, of course, was a catcher on that team. Dave Concepcion was on the 79 Reds. Ray Knight, Joe Morgan, Dave Collins, Ken Griffey. Some of the players managed by John McNamara on the 1979 Cincinnati Reds. And McNamara died earlier this week at the age of 88. The late manager of, among other teams, the Cincinnati Reds and the Boston Red Sox. That is going to do it for the Baseball Beat. As always, thanks for listening. You can subscribe to the Baseball Beat. We are in all of the major podcast directories, including the Apple Podcast Directory, Google, Spotify, iHeart, you name it, we're there. Go to my website, thebaseballbeat.com, and if you would like to email me, my email address is dan@danlavallo.com. And as always, thanks for listening to The Baseball Beat.